welcome back to Desertwood Days, and I am here with Mr. Bower Yousse, screenwriter. How are you doing today?
Very well. How about you?
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for asking me.
Such a pleasure. Mr. Bower, what was your first screenplay?
Well, the first one that got turned into a movie was Deadly Sanctuary,
Okay.
which was a local production.
I think I remember that.
It was based on a novel that a lady named Sylvia Noble wrote. She lives here, and she's written a series of these things. They're all based on pretty much true stories, mysteries, and she created a character, and you're probably going to want to know how it was that I got involved in that. And it was a funny story. Her husband was looking for someone to play golf with, and my card was in his Rolodex. Not for golf, I don't think. And he called me, and he said, "Oh, it says on your card that you write screenplays too." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, well, this is great timing. Sylvia needs to get a screenplay written, and maybe you'd be interested." And I said, "Sure, I'd be interested."
So he had never met you?
No, no, I think I met him one time at a party somewhere.
Okay. So you have on your card that you golf?
He must have written on there. Yeah, I should probably put that on there.
That's a great skill for filmmaking, you know?
Well, golf is a great place to meet people and do business. And
Yes. Awesome. When do you think one becomes a professional screenwriter or filmmaker?
Well, I think it's by definition, it's probably when you get paid to do it.
When you get paid to do it?
There has to be some money exchanged for it.
Okay.
I think you become a professional writer when you get paid. I started as a copywriter in advertising. I remember when I went to college, I wanted to be a lawyer, and I discovered that I wanted to be a writer.
Oh.
And I went home one weekend and told my father I was going to be a writer instead, which upset him greatly because that wasn't a real job to my father.
I'm sure it did.
My father was a great blue collar guy, and a writer to him was somebody that sits around writing poems in coffee houses and things. So, but
Wow.
I ended up being a copywriter, which was a great place to learn how to write screenplays because TV commercials are basically little screenplays.
So what was the first thing you wrote that you were able to take to your dad to show him what you were doing?
The first thing I got any attention for was in second grade. I wrote my teacher a love note. And my mother said,
"Your teacher." Did you take her an apple also?
No, I just wrote her a love note. And my mother said, "Your teacher's coming for dinner Friday night."
Oh.
And I thought, oh boy, I was scared to death. And it turned out
that guys start writing some love notes.
You never know where it's going to lead.
That's true.
So she came for dinner, and the thing I remember about that was that she smoked.
Oh.
I was shocked that my teacher smoked.
You saw a different side of her.
Yeah. And you remember when the Challenger blew up, the Space Shuttle Challenger? She was still teaching second grade then. And I had done a thing for IMAX theaters about the space shuttle and the space program. And she called me out of the clear blue sky and said that all the students were coming down to the state capitol to release some balloons, on the anniversary of that. And could I possibly come talk to them? And did I know the governor? And it happened, I did know the governor, so I got the governor involved. And we went and had lunch after that. And it was very interesting because then I smoked, she didn't smoke. We still talked about that love note. And the most amazing thing is, she pulled that little note out of her purse.
Wow. So, she held that all those years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you write it down, it's probably going to stick around for a while.
Wow. So when did you first get your first paid gig? Because you've been doing this for a long time now.
Long time, yeah. Well, I started writing for the National Hockey League.
Okay.
In addition to being a copywriter.
Okay.
So I was doing radio and TV commercials, short little films in Denver. And somebody tapped me on the shoulder one night at a hockey game and said they'd seen my writing and did I want to write as a copywriter doing some other things? And I said, sure. So I did that. And then my daughter married a movie producer. She went to Hollywood to be an actress and married a movie producer. and called me one day and she said, I'm going to go to writer's boot camp. Why don't you go with me? And I said, what are you going to do? And she said, I'm going to learn how to write screenplays. And I said, all right. So I flew out there every Thursday for about 8 weeks, and we went to writer's boot camp together.
Wow. So what would you, how would you describe your writing style?
Boy, that's a good question. I think my writing style is very conversational. People say when they read things that I've written that they really feel like I'm talking to them. And some of the things I've written, they say that they feel like they're there, they're in it. So.
And I think that's, I mean, when we're reading things, we want to feel like we're there.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and that may have come from writing radio commercials.
Right.
You know, because radio is really, it's so conversational. I will say when I used to produce a lot of radio commercials that I would always hire actors for the talent.
When people think of a filmmaker, they think the filmmaker, that's the person that's writing the film, that's the person that's producing whatever. They don't know that those could be separate roles. Can you explain to our audience, as a screenwriter, what your role is?
Well, you know, as a filmmaker, you can do all of those things when you're working on a low budget and you're, you know, like Sylvester Stallone with Rocky. I think he did everything.
Oh, really?
Probably
Okay.
shoot it.
Okay.
But a producer pulls all the money together, and, you know, I mean, there's, you know, if you watch a movie and the credits at the end, if you sit and watch the credits, you know, there's 9 million people listed there.
Right,
I mean,
right.
It's a huge number of people that work on a film. So there's a director, and the screenwriter basically creates the story and hands it off and is never heard from again. You know, low man on the totem pole. It's funny because, you know, Hollywood often complains that, you know, we don't have any good material.
Right. So you write the material and you may sell it off to someone or have someone else just produce it and go on with it.
Yeah, unless it's something that you're really passionately in love with and you don't want to let go of the control of it. You know, but a lot of screenwriters want to make money, you know, and if lightning strikes and I mean, you're going to make a lot of money.
So you brought us some media today. Can we talk a little bit about the media you brought?
Yeah, it's I grew up with a boy named Freddie Steinmark in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and he went on to the University of Texas to play football, and he was their starting safety in 1969 on their championship team. 2 days after they won the championship, they discovered that he had bone cancer and amputated his leg at the hip. He lived 17 months after that. They made a movie about him called My All-American that was out a few years ago. People may have seen that movie. The family asked me to write his biography because they were afraid if people only saw the movie, they wouldn't really know who Freddie was. Right. He was a very strong Catholic. So I wrote the biography. And now we're doing a documentary based on the book. We'll have it finished next summer, and the publisher is going to publish a special edition of the book to go along with it. So, yeah, he's the primary reason that President Nixon declared war on cancer in 1971. So it's a pretty amazing story. It's
wonderful. Can't wait to be able to see that.
Yeah.
So you brought a couple other pieces also with you?
Well, I brought some photos from that. The thing about this documentary is we have so much material to work with. From Howard Cosell talking about him, his visit to the White House. It's great when you're doing a project like that and you have a lot of material to work with.
So how do you do your research when it comes to writing something like this?
For this documentary, we hired an archivist who found material at TV stations all over the place. We spent a lot of time at the University of Texas in their archives, and the family had a lot of memorabilia too that we have access to.
Right. So, what advice would you give to an aspiring screenwriter?
Write a lot. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid of rejection. It's going to be rejected. but also don't be afraid to succeed. And also know why you're doing it.
Sure.
I mean, if it's really something that you're in love with and you're passionate about, then write it. If you're writing it to make money, know that you're writing it to make money, and no one's probably going to buy it.
Right.
It's very hard.
Figure out your why.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Figure out your why.
Yeah.
So, are there any new projects other than the one we spoke about that you're working on?
Well, the documentary is taking a lot of time right now, and we're also doing an audio version of the book, which I've just started recording that. So everything else is sort of on hold right now, but I've got a couple of screenplays that I'm revisiting because now there's some new interest in them. One of them is set in the future, and it's all about, how the country's been divided up, and California's a different country now, and it's pretty timely.
So you're a pretty busy man now.
My wife says I could be a lot busier. I think every writer could be busier.
There's always something up there.
But you're
to write
always
about.
working.
Right.
Yeah,
So where can our audience find you?
FreddieJoeSteinmark.com is the best place to find a lot of things that I've done. But then I'm on all social media under my name. So, yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure having you here with
It's
us
great to be
today.
here.
And thank you. And we look forward to whatever else you have next to come out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. And we will catch you next time on Desertwood Days with Kathy Blaze.